The funding for this program is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the Friends of 4, 10, and 12.
Good evening. In most American communities, perhaps particularly here in the West, the local hospital is often a source of great community pride, even affection. A hospital's growth and development is almost always some of the biggest news in town. And a seat on the local hospital board is a position of both prestige and some power. But in Bonneville County in eastern Idaho, the local hospital, its supporters and opponents, have spawned what the Idaho Falls Post-Register newspaper recently called a divisive community issue. It has also spawned an election next Tuesday, May 10th, in which some Bonneville County residents will vote on what some believe to be the future of health care in a great part of eastern Idaho. At issue is whether Bonneville County should provide for a county-owned and operated hospital in Idaho Falls, a hospital that would be in direct competition with a private hospital already in operation, a private hospital that not insignificantly has on the drawing board some big improvement plans. It is one of the most emotional issues in Idaho Falls in a long time, but it is also an issue that raises a great many questions worth pondering in other communities. Questions about the cost and quality of health care, questions about a community's own control over its medical facilities, and perhaps most significantly, questions about competition and how it affects directly the costs and services in the healthcare industry. We will look at all of those questions tonight and what the answers might mean for many residents in eastern Idaho. The background of this story and the background of next Tuesday's election in Bonneville County is long and it is a bit complicated, so producer Paula Whistle begins tonight with some of that background.
If passed, the initiative would direct the Bonneville County Commissioners to establish a county hospital. Why, one might ask, would a county with 2 hospitals and a soon-to-be-built 246-bed, $41 million private hospital to replace its current facilities want to establish a county hospital? The answer to that requires some hospital history of this community. For years in Idaho Falls, there were 2 private hospitals. One, Sacred Heart Hospital, was owned and operated by the Catholic Franciscan nuns. The other belonged to the LDS or Mormon Church. Independently, the 2 religious organizations divested their health care holdings. At that point, the LDS hospital became a part of Intermountain Healthcare, a nonprofit corporation set up by the Mormon Church to take over its hospitals. The other hospital was donated by the Franciscan Sisters to the Idaho Falls community and was owned and operated by the community. Then in 1978, the 2 hospital boards decided to merge their hospitals. At that point, the 2 facilities, now called Parkview and Riverview, became Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospitals. A new governing board was set up, although the 2 separate boards retained 50% of the voting stock in the new hospital. Intermountain Healthcare, the former owner of the LDS hospital, was hired to manage the 2 hospitals. At that point, it was said that consolidation would end costly duplication of services and bring down health care costs. Detractors say that hasn't happened. When Idaho Falls Consolidated announced plans in '81 to build a single replacement hospital, opposition began to emerge, saying they didn't believe the hospital administrators' claims that health care costs would not go up to subsidize the building of the new facility. A group calling itself Voice of the Hospital-Served Public was formed. They first opposed the hospital's certificate of need application before the state. When unsuccessful, they tried to keep the city from annexing the land. Finally, they gathered more than enough signatures, a third of the registered voters signed, to put the idea of Bonneville County establishing its own hospital to a vote. A hospital, they say, that would be more responsive to the community's needs and desires, and something they say the Salt Lake-based management of the current hospital is not. The community, in their words, will be better served by competition than consolidation. However, a study funded by Bonneville County concluded that a county-funded hospital here would not be economically feasible at this time. But proponents say the firm doing the study used some wrong assumptions, such as assuming it would cost $18 to $21 million for the county to buy and renovate the Parkview facility. some members of the Voice of the Hospital Served Public claim that this facility rightfully belongs to the Idaho Falls community, as that, they say, was the original intent of the Franciscan nuns when they donated the hospital. However, Intermountain Healthcare has said they will never agree to donate or sell this facility to a potential competitor. This is an issue that's hit people here on a very personal level. One resident I spoke with said it's emotionally turned this community upside down. What the outcome will be and how that will be interpreted can only be determined after the voters cast their decision on Tuesday.
I would vote for the hospital.
Why?
Because I think another hospital would really help things out a lot around here. Not to get into religious issues, but I think another hospital would be in order.
For a new hospital.
Why?
Because I've had some experience with both hospitals, and there's some real lack of management, and I feel, and it just appears lack of efficiency.
The county hospital.
Why?
Well, if it'll make things more for the, the customers, or why, that's the way I'd like to go.
I don't believe in this monopoly that they have, and I just think that we need a county hospital to keep prices down.
The other hospital is profit-making hospital, and all the money will go to Salt Lake because that's where it originated. And we need a county hospital because it's lower in expenses. Because all they are is for profit. The other hospital is for profit, and they don't care about, there's no compassion, no love, or nothing, just profit.
The moving force behind the effort to get the hospital question on the ballot in Idaho Falls next Tuesday is a group called the Voice of the Hospital Served Public. The leader of that group is Milton Adam of Idaho Falls. Mr. Adam is with us tonight in the studios of public station KISU in Pocatello. Mr. Adam, if the people in Bonneville County vote yes next Tuesday, are they really voting for a county hospital, or are they voting against the current hospital?
They're probably doing both. Although the effect will be to establish a county hospital, that's what we want. We originally started in opposition to Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital, then we decided that our best interest would be served by having a facility that would be responsive to the people and owned by the people. So now we feel that most people understand that this is the only way they're going to get their own input into the hospital. And in fact, I would say that the vast majority of the voters will be voting for a county hospital, and some may vote against the Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital, but the issue will primarily be establishing their own hospital and forever having their own say in their medical health care future.
So you just feel like there's no other way to get to what you see as the problems with the current hospital other than going ahead and developing another hospital?
Essentially, yes, because the present hospital's plans are already cast, they're underway, they're annexing the land that was annexed last night. The contractors have been picked to build the hospital, so we are going to be essentially saddled with this expensive hospital, even though that's not what the people wanted. So at this point, it becomes a rather moot point as to what's left to decide or discuss. All the matters are underway already as far as Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital is concerned.
Why would competition be a good thing?
I think the consumer is always better served by competition. The only places where you have monopoly, essentially it's basically controlled by like a public utility commission. Even the John Short Associate study, which was produced for the county, indicated that competition was a healthy thing in a community where the medical facilities were solvent. But that's the way all businesses in the United States have prospered under competition. It's the drive to serve the customer, to serve them better, to give them a better product at a better price, one company against the other, and the competitor comes out ahead in providing lower cost services, and the consumer always comes out ahead in competition versus monopoly. Neither system is perfect, but by far competition is the better one. by far the lesser of the two evils, if that was a term that could be used for it.
I see. Mr. Adam, just run through quickly a checklist of your complaints with the current hospital.
Well, I would imagine the first on the list would be the basic shutting off of the community input into their decisions, and the secretiveness of their operations, from the standpoint that this whole thing about a brand new $41 million hospital was sprung on the people in a public release back in October of 1981, and nobody was even aware that they had been considering building a new hospital. Yet those obviously was a very impactful thing on the people, especially in the costs, which were later identified to be horrendous. But nevertheless, there was no leading up to this, and the hospital has still maintained a relatively closed-off atmosphere to the public.
Just in a word, you have some trouble with how much they charge the patients, too, don't you?
Yes, even the John Short Associate study indicated that it's the most expensive hospital between, say, comparing facilities in Bannock County with Idaho Falls, Pocatello and Idaho Falls. There's quite a difference in costs, and the costs at one time were comparable, and yet ever since the consolidation, you took away the competition and you formed a monopoly, and the costs have gone up. Yes, that's one of our major items also.
Well, thank you. We'll come back in a moment. A good many of Mr. Adams' group's complaint about the current Idaho Falls Hospital has been directed, of course, at its management, its board. Businessman Boyd Zollinger is one of the members of the Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital Board. Mr. Zollinger, with all of this apparent divisiveness in your community, doesn't that indicate that you're doing something wrong?
I would think that it would appear on the surface that we have some problems, and we recognize that we have perhaps had some problems in communicating with the community, many of which we were not aware of until this particular issue came to the front. And I think that they're somewhat overstated and over-exaggerated because of the emotional nature of the particular issue that we're confronted with.
Why has it become so emotional?
I think because there are so many misunderstandings associated with it. First of all, I think it's difficult for people to recognize that we need a new hospital facility. The current facilities that we have are in reasonably good repair, or at least they appear to be. They're well maintained, and I think that it takes working in them on a daily basis to recognize the shortcomings that they have. So that's one reason. Initially, the cost, I think, is a factor that people are concerned about. It's difficult for us to communicate to them.
You mean now the cost of the new facility?
The cost of the new facility. Okay. We have found it extremely difficult to communicate to the citizens of the community that the savings associated with operating out of one facility will offset the cost of building that facility. So while a certain percentage of your hospital dollar will go to pay for the new facility, currently a roughly equivalent percentage of every hospital dollar is going to pay for unavoidable inefficiencies associated with operating one hospital out of two separate buildings.
I just read this morning, Mr. Zollinger, in the Idaho Falls newspaper, Dr. Stephen Carter's piece that was in a few days ago. He's the president of the local medical society, saying that morale among the staff and even the volunteers at your hospital is, as he put it, at an all-time low. How do you explain that?
I guess, first of all, I would have to question the validity of Dr. Carter's information. For every letter that is published in a letter to the editor, every bit of information that we would see that would indicate that there's discontent. On the other hand, we see others that would indicate that people are pleased with the services that we have, and that members of the staff and employees of the hospital are also pleased and satisfied with their employment with the hospital. This isn't to say that we don't recognize that perhaps some problems do exist. And I think that one thing that we have learned from this whole experience is that we undoubtedly need to do something that will improve the communication between the staff and the administration and the physicians and the members of the community in Idaho Falls. And I'm convinced that regardless of the outcome of the vote on Tuesday, that mechanisms will be established to accomplish these objectives.
Let me just ask you quickly about a couple of the points that Mr. Adam makes. First, competition. Would it be good or bad?
In the traditional sense of the word, I think Mr. Adams' scenario is probably true as it applies to your normal free enterprise system. I think that the scenario breaks down, though, when you talk to a hospital system. First of all, particularly with the system that we have in Idaho Falls, a nonprofit system, none of the profits that are generated out of the operation of the hospital can accrue to the benefit of the owners, which are Intermountain Healthcare and the Community Hospital Board. There is no way that the profits that we generate can in any way be used for their benefit. All of the profits that are generated must be used in the community by the hospital. So the normal motivation or propensity that we see with owners of a free enterprise system to take advantage of the public if they are in a monopolistic situation does not exist in our situation.
Well, let me just quickly get Mr. Adams' response to that. Sir?
I'd like to make reference to an article that was in the U.S. News and World Report in August of 1981. It was titled Medicine and Profits. It was a feature article. And in it there was a statement by a spokesman from Hospital Corporation of America, the largest hospital-owning facility or corporation in the United States. And this is what he said. He says, the same ingredients that propelled such companies as Sears, McDonald's, and Exxon are applicable to the institutional healthcare sector. That indicates that medical care and medical operations are really no different. They respond to the same type of matters of profit, motives, competition, law of supply and demand. There really isn't any difference. And in fact, in that same particular article, there was another quote by Stuart R. Kirkpatrick of Intermountain Healthcare, because they mentioned Intermountain Healthcare as a nonprofit corporation. And in that statement...
just again, so we don't get confused, that's the company that manages the hospital in Idaho Falls.
That's correct, yes. Intermountain Healthcare is a not-for-profit corporation that manages and is part owner of the Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital. However, Mr. Kirkpatrick did say, if the nonprofits don't start behaving like those run for profit, they'll be pushed out of the industry. So Mr. Kirkpatrick was essentially saying that they have to act like Sears and McDonald's and Exxon, because that's what Mr. Williamson of Hospital Corporation of America said, that it operates the same way.
Mr. Zollinger?
Well, I think that it's obvious for any institution, whether it's a for-profit hospital or for a non-profit hospital, has to generate revenue in excess of its expenses. It's imperative that it do that in order for it to stay in business. The hospitals or the profits that the Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital have generated since consolidation in 1978 amount to approximately 3.08% per year. These profits aren't excessive. Our profit last year was in the neighborhood of 5%, which compares to a national average of 5.3%. Again, it's absolutely not excessive.
Let me ask you one finally about Mr. Adams' point about the cost of services in your hospital as compared to the hospital in the county just to the south of you, Bannock County, and comparing with Pocatello's hospital. He says you charge more than they do.
It's extremely difficult for an individual to make a comparison between hospital costs because they're so complex and there's so many factors that are involved. If you take the hospital costs in Bannock County and compare them with those in Bonneville County, you have some difficulties because there are some peculiarities associated with the health care delivery system in Bonneville County that do not exist in Bannock County.
But I guess your point would be, excuse me, that your costs are not out of line.
Absolutely not. And what I was going to say was that when you take out these peculiarities and compare apples to apples, our average cost per patient stay would actually be $5 less in Idaho Falls than it is in Bannock County. When you compare the costs of Idaho Falls with the median cost of hospitals in this region, and this was done recently by a study of the American Hospital Association, for the 6-month period ending December 1982, you find that the costs in Idaho Falls are actually $65 per patient day less than the regional median, and they're about $755 per patient stay less than comparable hospitals in our region.
Mr. Adam, can you just give me a quick response to that? Then we'll have to move along.
Yes, I can just use the John Shorten Associates study, which just came out last couple of days ago, and in it they specifically show that the average daily patient charge at Bannock Hospital is $404. And in the text, they indicate that the Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital average daily patient charge is $466. That's $62 a day difference.
Well, gentlemen,
more in Idaho Falls.
I see. Well, gentlemen, we'll come back to you in just a moment. Thank you. However this election goes on May 10th, its results will be interpreted as a signal to someone. Should the vote be yes in favor of a county hospital, the message will be sent directly to the Bonneville County Commissioners. Clyde Burtonshaw is the chairman of the Bonneville County Commission. Commissioner, your study said no to a county hospital. Are you telling folks to vote no on Tuesday?
All we're telling the folks that we want them to realize and understand the problems that exist with the county hospital, and that's what the study was made for. And the study does show that there would be some tax money involved. It has always been said there would not be tax money involved. We want them to understand there's tax money going to be involved, and the study also shows that there will be a loss in the first 5 years, regardless whether we build a hospital or acquire one of the others. And we want the people to understand that. And if the people understand that and still feel like it's in their best interest to vote yes, we'll certainly abide by their decision.
Will Commissioner Burtonshaw tell me how he's going to vote?
I don't think I'm in a position to say that because I'm in a political position, and I don't think it should be my obligation to report that.
Well, let me just ask you then about a couple of the points that seem central to this whole thing, and that's the question of competition. As you view it, would that be good or bad?
Again, we have to go by the study, and the study shows that competition in hospitals does not make costs go down. In this case, it shows that if a county hospital is acquired or built or used, the average cost will go up $166 a day, I believe the figure shows. Because there's a certain amount of overhead that's going to be there and exist regardless. In both hospitals, and whether the patients are there, the overhead still marches on, and they must be paid by the patient or a taxpayer in taxes.
We heard several of those people during that videotape a moment ago talk about the way this has divided your community and your county, I guess. Is it that sharp a division?
Yes, I think it's very emotional in our county, and contrary to Mr. Adams, I feel like that they're voting against the other hospital more than for one. We have numerous calls comes into our office, and they don't understand. They think that they're voting it's going to stop the other hospital from being built, which is not true. We have told them that they're voting actually part of the initiative concern that says yes or no, do you want a county hospital? And we must remember that that initiative said we shall do it. We shall build or acquire or do something. And that's what gives us problems, because we don't have any options. It said we shall do it. And of course, if that's what the people want, we will do it.
How much will it cost?
Well, the study shows that to build a new structure and start from scratch with all the overheads and everything that goes in it, they're estimating between, I believe it's $15 to $22 million. And if they go with an existing hospital, if they're able to acquire one of those, the Parkview was when it was mentioned, it'd be between $17 and $21 million. Now included in that is operating money, which they estimate is about $2 million operating upfront money. So even if we, for some unknown way, we even acquired one clear free, still got an enormous amount of money up front that's got to come from someplace. And Bonneville County does not have any money for hospitals.
Mr. Adam, how about that point? The commissioner says it's going to cost a lot of money.
Well, under the assumptions that John Short and Associates chose, yes, and we feel that they were invalid. Studies can be made to show anything they want. In fact, Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital has had many studies. In 1979, Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital had a study that was performed by Booz Allen Hamilton, a reputable outfit, and they indicated that no new hospital should be built for 8 to 12 years. By 1981, there was another study presented by Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital which said build a new hospital, a 254-bed hospital at $41.9 million. So you can see you pay your money and take your choice on what you get out of a study. And,
well, some are critical of you, though, are they not, for not being able to say up front in front of this election what the cost might be?
No, because we don't know what the cost. We have to first investigate that. Again, I refer back to Idaho Falls Consolidated Hospital. They've been studying this matter for 5 years, and we have the list of all the studies that they've performed and the various options that these studies presented. So there's obviously a large choice involved, and you have to go through this and pick and choose. In a matter of 2 or 3 months, a small group of citizens can't come up with all this. The county hospital matter is just a indication to get started on researching this and being serious about establishing a county hospital.
Well, are you ultimately really trying to block them building a new consolidated facility?
No, I think that'll happen by itself if there is a county hospital established.
Regardless of how the election goes, you think that's going to happen anyway?
What, that they will establish that they will build their hospital?
Yes, sir.
No, I don't believe so, because I think what will happen is that they may build a new hospital, but it'll be a smaller one.
I see. Mr. Zollinger, how about that point?
First of all, let me respond to Mr. Adams' indictment of the studies and using that apparently as a justification for them not having any. We have had a number of studies. Let me say that as a board of directors, we regard it as our responsibility to provide an environment and a facility that will enable the physicians of the community of Idaho Falls to deliver the best, least expensive health care possible. The result of our studies indicated that the best way we could meet that objective was through the construction of a new single facility. The savings involved through the efficiencies gained by operating out of one building more than paid for the cost of the construction of that facility. That's a key point, and I think it's one that has to be understood and one that has not been addressed in recent controversy in the community.
Well,
now, whether or not we will, whether or not...
Let me have Mr. Adam just quickly respond to that point.
Okay, I would say that the only other independent agency that ever analyzed the hospital's data was the State Health Planning and Development Agency, whose responsibility it is to do this sort of thing. In both cases, and for their certificate of need application, the State Health Planning and Development Agency recommended a denial of building the new hospital, as it was not a cost-effective, the most cost-effective solution for the from the standpoint of the healthcare consumer, the patient. They said the new hospital would cost much more than the other alternatives that could be considered.
Mr. Zollinger, you wanted to make another point. Go ahead, sir.
I was just going to answer your question, which was that I don't think it's at all certain that a new hospital will be constructed should the outcome of the election mandate that the county commissioners build a hospital. I think that the healthcare delivery system in Idaho Falls will be in such a state of turmoil and uncertainty that it would very possibly be that we would not deem it appropriate to go ahead at that time. I'm not certain that's exactly what the outcome will be.
Well, let me ask you for a prediction then. How's it going to go on Tuesday?
It's difficult for me to say. I think earlier, before the short study came out, that probably it would have passed. Now that the short study has come out, I'm not sure. I think it's pretty much of a toss-up. I think it would be unfortunate.
Let me just quickly get a prediction from the commissioner. How do you think the vote will go, Commissioner Burtonshaw?
Well, I feel about the same way as Mr. Zollinger there, that I think the study has, and this is the reason we had the study, because a lot of people wanted it because they didn't have the information. And I think it's give the information to people so they'll make their choices, and I think it's more of a equal vote now than it was because they've had something to go on rather than just hearsay.
And Mr. Adam, you said you thought it would pass on Tuesday. Well, thank you, gentlemen. We've exhausted our time, I'm sorry to say. We appreciate you all being with us tonight. Thank you very much. That's all for tonight. We'll be back on Monday night. I'm Mark Johnson. Good night.
This program is produced by the Idaho Educational Public Broadcasting System, which is solely responsible for its content. The funding for this program is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the Friends of 4, 10, and 12.